Hello, how are you doing tonight? My name is Dina Cataldo and I am the owner of Sicilian Tea Company. I'm here to talk to you tonight about white tea. But before we get started, I want to talk to you a little bit about a couple resources. So if you're brand new to tea, you might want to check out a resource that I created. It's a snapshot of the 6 types of teas. So if you're not familiar with white, yellow, green, oolong, black, dark teas and the differences between them, I've created a quickie guide and I've linked to it in the show notes. And I've put in the link here where you can get it. So just go to the blog/show notes and you can find that resource there. Also, if you are new to tea or you're just learning about tea, either way, please come and join Sicilian Tea Company's new Facebook group. It's a growing group of people who are tea lovers, and tea people are the best people. So come on by, say hello, and tell us what your absolute favorite kind of tea is. So, right now my favorite kind of tea is white tea because I've been drinking it pretty much all weekend just to prepare for this. I mean, this job's rough, right? Like drinking a ton of tea. It was a tough job, but I did it for you because I know you would want to know what I learned. I created a blog that has lots of pictures and will get into the nitty-gritty about what color the liquor is and some of the aromas and the flavors and all of that. But what I want to talk to you tonight about is why, well, 5 things about white tea that I think you should know. So first off, why should you even drink white tea? Well, there's 3 reasons I can think of. First off, it is delicious, okay? I am drinking a cup of white tea right now, and I will give you 3 guesses to figure out which kind it is. So I'm going to talk about 4 different kinds tonight. Silver Needle, a Malawi Bavumbuwe BSP. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm also going to talk about a Silver Queen, and I'm going to talk to you about white peony. So if you can guess which one of those 4 teas I am drinking, you'll get some kind of bonus point. I don't know what it is, but if you want to guess, be my guest in the comments. So it's delicious. There are so many different flavors you can get from white tea. It's more delicate, I think, than some of the black teas that you'll have that maybe are more malty. White teas are more floral. They can be buttery. They can taste like honey and caramel. Maybe they'll have even some nut notes. That sounds funny, but it's true. So it's something that, you know, everything's made out of the same tea leaf, right? All teas are made out of Camellia sinensis. So to compare it to wines, all wines are made out of grapes, but they're all different grapes. And the white ones are going to be made to make white wines, and the darker grapes are going to be used to make red wines for the most part, right? Well, with white teas, the same kinds of leaves are used from different plants that have been developed over the years to create certain kinds of teas, like whites and greens and blacks, but they use different development techniques, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit, okay? And then another reason why to drink white tea is for the health benefits. You know, I've done a blog on this, I've done a video on this, on the whether or not tea is really healthy. And what it comes down to is drink what you like. If you want to watch that video, I'll link to it in the show notes. But I always tell people just drink what you like. I mean, if you don't like green tea, but you hear all this great research about green tea and you're forcing yourself to drink green tea, don't do it. Find a tea that you like. There is one out there for you. Maybe it's white tea. One of the reasons I like white tea, especially in the afternoon, which is when I'm filming this, is that it doesn't have a lot of caffeine in it. So I can have a cup of white tea and not feel like I'm going to be buzzing towards the end of the night. Not everybody has that same sensitivity to caffeine, but over the years I've become a little more sensitive to it. And I notice when I have a cup of white tea, it affects me a lot less than it would, say, if I were having a black tea. So another reason why I love white tea is just because it's so darn different than anything else that I tried when I was first starting to drink tea. So what is white tea? It turns out that the people who name the teas, yes, there are associations that name different teas, whether they're white or green or Assam or Darjeeling, whatever you want to call them. The association that names teas cannot agree on what makes a white tea. There's three thoughts, but basically what it comes down to is it's either not processed at all or minimally processed. I'm going to explain a little bit about what that means. So all tea has to be plucked, right? You know, a person goes or a machine goes and they pluck the leaf off of the plant. And then with white teas, they're simply dried. There may be one extra step for some tea processors. Maybe they'll heat them, they'll fire them. But for most white tea, they're not touched at all. They're plucked and then they're dried on bamboo. For other teas like green teas or black teas, they're processed in some way, whether they're heated or they're crushed or they're bruised, damaged in some way so that they release oils and create a different flavor to the leaf. Now, I've done an entirely different blog on this. I'll link to it in the show notes. If you're really interested in processing, it gets into the nitty-gritty about processing. You can go to it there. But what it comes down to here are three trains of thought. You have people who believe that the white tea should really just be considered those fine little rolled leaves that are at the very top. They're the shoots. They're brand new leaves. They're rolled. They haven't even opened yet. Those particular little buds are plucked, and only white tea should be considered those little buds. That's one train of thought. And that's the most expensive tea, by the way. That's silver needle. That's one of the ones we're going to talk about in a little bit. And then you have people who believe that white teas should be considered that little bud as well as the two fresh leaves that are next to it. And I know it sounds a little hoity-toity, but that's what tea processing is all about, and it's kind of fun, right? So some people believe that it should be that shoot and the two little leaves next to it, and then it just should be dried and nothing else should happen to it, and that's a white tea. And then there's people who believe that that little bud and those any leaves on the tea plant can be dried, and if you want to, you can process them a little bit. You can heat them, and that's okay. So what it comes down to is they're minimally processed. And what that means for us, the tea drinker, is that we get less caffeine and we get different kinds of flavors. We get more delicate flavors, which also means that we have to brew this leaf a little bit differently. So I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, how it is you can brew white tea without messing it up. Because if you do it wrong, you could end up with a bitter cup of tea that does not taste delicious, and nobody wants to drink that. Not me. Has anybody guessed what it is I'm drinking tonight? Anybody? So you've got Silver Needle, you've got Silver Queen, you've got the, oh, hi Roy, how's it going? Thanks for joining me. We've got Silver Queen, we've got Silver Needle, we've got the Malawi blend, and then we've also got the, ooh, what was the other one that I said? Well, we'll talk about it in a little bit. So, so where does it come from? So basically the white tea capital of the world is Fujian Province in China. And they're the ones who really set like the gold standard for white tea. So when you hear about Silver Needle white tea and how perfect it is and how it's just that little bud, that is Fujian Province. Now there are other places that are experimenting with creating white teas using leaves that would not traditionally be used for white teas. Places like India and Nepal and Taiwan and Malawi, they're all experimenting and creating things that are just delicious. And so it's kind of a cool thing now in the tea industry to experiment and to create these new teas. And so I try not to get too attached to a particular tea because there's so many out there. And every time a new harvest is picked, you're getting a brand new kind of tea. It's going to taste different than the tea that was plucked last year. And it's just something that is fun to discover, something to explore. And whenever you have an opportunity to start drinking a tea, something that's totally different, it's exciting and new. And so that's why I think that white tea is just such a fun thing to get into right now. It's not something that a lot of people drink because it's not something that's in the news all the time. You always have green tea in the news. You always have oolong in the news and matcha in the news. But no one ever talks about white tea. And it's one of the most delicious teas. So How do you pick out the best white tea for you? Well, like I say about all tea, is it comes down to what your taste is. So for the most part, if you like things that are buttery and floral, that are a little more on the light side, you're going to enjoy just about any white tea that you drink. Now, the 4 teas that I want to talk about, I'm going to show you 3 of them right now. So I've created this, and you've got the Bavumbuwe BSP, which is from Malawi. You have the Silver Queen from Assam, and you've got White Peony, which is from Fujian Province. And you can tell that there's a difference in the leaves right away, right? So you've got lighter tea here from this White Peony. In the middle you have the Silver Queen, and it's a little bit darker leaf. And then you have the Malawi tea, and this one is going to be darker. Now if you look at the Baimudan, it has, which is the White Peony, it's a lighter, but it also has a blend of browns in it. And when you go to the blog, you're going to find that there are even more pictures that are going to be able to give you the differences. Now the Silver Queen, those seem to be the most complete leaves, right? The most complete ones. And what they do is they do a drying process where they're really careful with the leaves, and they don't want to bruise the leaves or create any browning, because what happens is that changes the whole flavor profile of the tea. And they want to try to preserve as much as possible the very fresh nature of that bud that they're plucking. And then with the Malawi tea, it's totally different. It's brown leaves, so it looks like it's been fired. And then the leaves are much drier, so they break much quicker. Now all tea has to be dried, and you can tell that these are all very dry. But when you look at the picture of the dry leaf from Malawi, it looks like it's been charred. And when you brew the liquor, it's much darker than the liquor that you're going to see from the Fujian Province White Peony or from the Indian Silver Queen. It's very different, and they're very different flavor profiles, but it's still light. So how do you brew this tea? How do you make it so you don't brew it so much that you're killing the leaf and it's going to taste like something bitter and something you don't want to drink? Well, first off, you don't want to boil your water. Boiling water is fine if you're drinking a black tea and even some oolongs, but you don't want to brew it too long, because leaves cook just like any other plant, right? So when you have a white tea, you want to make sure that the temperature of the water is lower. And if you don't have one of those fancy brevies that, I love the brevi, by the way, if you ever have a chance to get one and you love tea that much, get one. It makes it so much easier. But brevis have some separate temperature settings. But if you don't have something fancy like that, just boil water and let it sit for 5 minutes and then pour it over your tea leaves, because that will, that will lessen the chance that you're going to burn the leaves. The next thing you want to make sure that you do is not to brew it too long. If you're brewing white tea, I wouldn't do it for more than a minute, maybe even less to start, just to kind of see what the flavors taste like. You're going to want to brew it a few times just to kind of figure out what you like. Do you like it darker and richer? Maybe doing that makes it too bitter for you, too astringent for you. Sometimes you notice, well, I noticed this weekend when I was drinking all this white tea, is when the white tea cools down and it's no longer so hot, you can taste it more. You can get more flavors from it. And so I let my tea cool several times, and I enjoyed it even more. So if you are a fan of iced tea, you might want to try white tea in a nice cold brew. Another thing that you want to do is use about 2 teaspoons of tea per 8 ounces of water. So if you're not busting out your measuring cup every time you're brewing tea, the easy way to measure that is if you're using a regular coffee mug, something like this. This is about 12 ounces of water. So use about 3 teaspoons of white tea for your cup if you're using a regular coffee mug, something like that. So that's what I got in terms of brewing, and those are the things that are really going to help your white tea be a more enjoyable experience. Something I want to make sure you know, if you're brand new to tea, that you can re-steep your tea leaves at least 3 times for most white teas. So just keep Keep brewing them. You're going to get different flavor profiles. And in order to extract more of the oils from those teas, you can increase the temperature as you continue to steep them, or you can try to brew the water, brew the tea leaves longer to extract more of those oils. Just kind of play around and see what you like, because it's, you know, not a science, it's an art, it's what you like, and it's just a trial and error kind of thing. So have fun with that. So now I would like to hear from you. Okay, did you like this video? Let me know by liking the video, subscribing to me on YouTube. And if you have any questions that I didn't answer here, tell me what you'd like to know. Remember, get a side-by-side comparison of the teas that we talked about tonight. Go to the website that I mentioned and I've linked to, and that will give you some pictures that I took this weekend of some gorgeous white teas, both brewed and not brewed. And then keep trying new teas and experimenting, okay? Because this is about playing, this is about having a good time and finding something new. It's about not getting too attached to one particular tea and just trying more and more. And the more you try them, the more you discover what you like. So I'm going to take you back to those two things that we talked about at the beginning, which is to go ahead and join the Facebook group. You know, if you click on the link, I'm going to link to it in the show notes. Join a group of a growing community of people that just love tea. And then what you can do is go to the show notes and get the 6 types of tea PDF, so you can learn more about what is the difference between a white tea, a yellow, green, black, oolong, and a dark tea. If you don't know what those are, maybe you'll find something that you like. It's all about playing. All right? Keep experimenting, and thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Oh, and if you didn't guess what it was that I'm drinking, I am drinking the Bavumbuwe BSP, the Malawi. It's a little bit darker, it's a little bit richer, and I was just in a mood for it tonight. All right, have a good one.